Like, do I go here? Do I go there? Do I take this decision? Do I make that decision? And sometimes it can get scary. The decision that you make today can literally shape your life 2, 3, 5, even 10 years down the line. What consequence are you willing to tolerate? I ask myself, what's the worst case scenario? What's the consequence? Am I willing to take that? If I'm willing to take that, I'm going to go with that. Welcome to TNG Experience with me, Nitesh Gyanchandani. I'm a mindset coach, and if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, you can click the link down below if you're watching this from YouTube, or you can click the link in the episode description if you are listening to this episode from any podcast platform. And we'll see how we can work with each other. So today, let's talk about decisions. And if you've ever been in a crossroad, you're confused on what decision that you want to take for your life. Like, do I go here? Do I go there? Do I take this decision? Do I make that decision? And sometimes it can get scary. Like, think about it, right? The decision that you make today can literally shape your life 2, 3, 5, even 10 years down the line. And that can be scary, man. So, how to make the right decisions and avoid making the wrong decisions? Now, you can't completely cut off wrong decisions because that's how life works, right? But how we can minimize it? We'll discuss it in this video. But before that, I'd like to share with you a story that I went through in my first ever job. So, in 2013, my family told me that they cannot send me to medical school because my dad did not have the funds to send me to be a doctor. So because of that, I was given an opportunity to work at a garment factory, garment company, and I worked as an admin in that company, my first ever job. Now, I'm grateful for that opportunity because that taught me a lot. I was there for about a year plus. But after a year, I just told myself, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit and I want to be a public speaker. I was already in Toastmasters. I was learning some few public speaking, and I want to go full time into it. I want to share my story with the world. So when I was about to quit, I actually asked my boss, my employer, for life advice. I asked him, I called him Uncle, right? Uncle, if you were in my place, how would I make the right decision and avoid making the wrong decision? And he told me one thing that I will never forget. And this may be able to help you, right? He said, Nitesh, I can't make your decisions for you. But if I were you, I will not think in terms of right or wrong decisions. But rather, I would think in actions and consequences. Every one of your actions has consequences. Every one of it. What consequence are you willing to tolerate? That's the action you take. Because unless and until you're willing to tolerate the consequence of the action, of the decision that you make, you're always going to go back to your old decisions. That was something. So I asked myself if I quit the job. Of course, he was trying maybe to say that for me to not quit the job. But after careful consideration, right, I was thinking, if I quit the job, what's the consequence? I'm going to be I'm not going to be able to earn maybe for a year until my career took off. But if I stay there, I would be in my comfort zone forever. And I don't know how I will be able to grow. And at that time I was young, right? So I said, I'm willing to take the consequence, and I quit the job anyway. But that was an invaluable lesson. How do you make decisions? What consequence are you willing to tolerate with the decision that you make? That's the decision you go with. I'll give you an example. You're right now working at a company, right? Let's say it's a multinational company, and you want to start your own business. The consequence of starting your own business is that maybe for a year you need to save up money, and you will not be able to make income for at least the first year or the first 2 years. Depends on the business that you're running, right? And then you can further down the consequence, right? If you are able to handle that consequence, maybe you're going to invest. Maybe you've saved up some money, and then you're going to invest in a mentor so that your learning curve is reduced. The time that is needed for you to make your first income, your revenue, is reduced. If you're okay with that consequence, then go with it. Another consequence that you will have to face is you're going to be passed up for promotions. You could have been the CEO of the company, but now you can't do that because you're out of it. Are you okay with that? On the other hand, if you stay in the company, the consequence is that you will not be able to fully explore what you're capable of being. Maybe your business could have been worth millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars. Are you willing to take that consequence for staying in that company, for that security, or for being promoted in your company? What consequence are you willing to tolerate? That's the decision that you make. Don't always think of the best case scenario. It's always easy to think of, okay, if I'm in this company, I'm definitely going to be a millionaire. If I start my own company, or if I stay in this company and I level up, I will be the CEO one day. What if you don't? That's a consequence. What if you start your company and then it went bankrupt? Are you okay with that consequence? What if you stay in that company and then you get fired? Are you okay with that consequence? So it's always like, of course, this is not about being negative, right? I always propose positive thinking, but if you're okay with the consequence, which is the negative worst case scenario, you're going to be okay with the results, with the positive circumstance in your life. Now, another example came from my dating life recently, my previous relationship, right, that I've broken up with. I told her to think in terms of actions and consequence instead of right and wrong. Now, she broke up with me fully thinking that, she has to be okay with the consequence that I'm never going to take her back. And I'm going to move on with my life. If she comes back to me, that means she didn't really understand the consequences of her decision. When I was with her, I was already thinking of all the consequences that I will have to go through that I'm with her. And that's why I was able to stay in the relationship long, because I was already thinking of all the consequence in the beginning. If I was just thinking of all the good times, all the nice times that we can have, the relationship would have been over in like 3 months. Even if you want to get into a relationship, you need to understand your partner, know their weaknesses, and know the consequence that will come to you once you're in a relationship. Not just about your partner's weaknesses and being okay with that. Also about, for example, the time that you could have spent with your friends or, working on your hobby. Now you'll have to be with her. Not have to, of course, if you love her, you'll enjoy being with her. But you get what I mean. So make your decision based on the consequences that you're willing to tolerate. Another example is fitness. Today, for example, you don't really work out, right? Because you're busy being with your friends or you're working hard. I'm not judging you. or you're spending time with your family, but you do not really work out. It's an opportunity cost, right? Maybe you eat unhealthy, you drink. Are you okay with the consequence of maybe 10 to 20 years down the line, your health will not be as good as it is right now? Because you're not building it, you're not working on it right now. Are you okay with that consequence? Now, on the other hand, if you choose to work out, you eat healthy, are you okay with the consequence that you may not be able to hang out with those people who are not eating healthy just like you? They'll be like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing not drinking? What are you doing eating shirataki, for example, or red rice, right? Or stuff like that. Are you okay with that? That was the decision I made. I would rather preserve my fitness and hang out with people who work out, who eat healthy, who talk about business, who talk about positive stuff and who uplifts each other, than to hang out with a circle of people who are not positive and who are living an unhealthy life. I love them, God bless them, I just don't have to be with them. So when I understood this thinking process, it makes it easier for me to make decisions based on the consequences that I am willing to tolerate. Instead of thinking, what do I really want? I ask myself, what's the worst case scenario? What's the consequence? Am I willing to take that? If I'm willing to take that, I'm going to go with that. Right? If I'm okay with the negative things that will happen once I make that decision, automatically I will be okay with the positive things that happen. This is managing our expectation. A lot of people, like for example, they get into entrepreneurship or they get into a relationship or, they started working out. They don't fully think of the consequences that's going to come from their action, from their decision, and then they go back to their old self. You don't want to do this. When you want to go full on, you need to think everything. Be okay with the consequence and you will readily enjoy the results that will come from your decision. And your decision will be more long-term. Sorry for the noise from the laptop. But I hope this episode has been inspiring for you. I hope it has been useful for you. I hope you gain some value and insights from this. Remember, when you want to make a decision, ask yourself, what consequence are you willing to tolerate? Once you do that, you're going to make a better and long-term decision. If you're watching this episode from YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This will really help to grow the channel, and share this to as many people as possible. If you're listening to this from any podcast platform, then hit the like button and save this episode so that you can listen to it another time and it can be useful for you. I'll see you in our next episode of the TNG Experience.